Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast. Today, we are going to be talking some more about the Wrath of the Triple Goddess. We are diving into chapters 25 through 27. We are going to be getting some startling witchy backstory reveals. There's going to be potions, pills, exciting things. Stick around.
You didn't complete the triple potions and pills and what? Oh my.
Polecats.
Potions and polecats and pills.
Oh my.
Welcome back, everyone, to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast. My name is Erica, joined as always by my co-host, Carter. What's up, Carter?
Hi.
And we have a brand new guest today, brand new to Seaweed Brain, but not brand new to Percy Jackson podcasting. It's Mal from Demigod Debut Podcast.
Hello.
Welcome, Mal. Tell us all about your show. Tell us about when it started.
Yeah, so I started this podcast with my friend Julie in January of this year because she'd never read Percy Jackson before. And I have been a longtime fan since I read the books in 6th grade. And I was like, I kind of want to start a podcast. And she was like, we absolutely should. And so, she's just been kind of encouraging my nonsense ever since. But we're through Battle of the Labyrinth now. And we'll start The Last Olympian in the new year. So very excited to do all that.
Do you have a favorite mythic creature that you align with or a monster you identify with?
Ooh. I mean, my sort of hot take is that I think all the monsters are adorable. So like the Chimera in the show, I want one kind of as a pet because I thought it was adorable.
Why don't we have stuffed animals yet? Why don't we have a Percy Jackson Chimera Build-A-Bear yet?
Yes, I agree.
Or a Lego set.
I would own it.
I actually genuinely, though, that is a genuine question. Where are the Percy Jackson merchandising people? What are they up to?
There is a stunning lack of merch.
What is taking their time and devotion away from making merch for Percy Jackson as another stream of revenue?
Why don't I have a Lego set yet?
Look at Wicked, for heaven's sake. That's a 2-part movie. And this is a potentially 5-season series.
This is a multi-year investment that they should be making. It's true. When I went to the movie theater this past weekend, there was a custom broomstick sitting there for you to grab and take a photo with. They could have used literally any broom, and they built a custom broomstick for that. So I guess what I'm asking is,
that's crazy.
Yeah, where are the necklaces? Where are the swords?
Can we get the marketing and merchandising team working on Wicked?
I think they have to continue to hold space for what they're doing. But
right.
I'm thinking they might be busy with part 2.
That's true. But I just don't understand. They want to make money. I want to give them my money. Why is there no opportunity for capitalism in this one instance that I am begging for it?
Exactly.
Why is this the one that eludes us?
Well,
anyway, Mal. Speaking of cute chimera, do you have any pets?
So I actually just recently acquired a bearded dragon. Yes. I did not expect to love this lizard as much as I do, but now I'm like, that is my child. I laid the egg myself, and this is my baby. Yeah.
The bearded dragon, the perfect New York City pet.
That's what I was going to say. The only people I've ever known who have had bearded dragons are New Yorkers and people in the East Bay, like Oakland, Berkeley. There was a famous reptile store on Telegraph Avenue for a while. So I know that there are bearded dragons out there as well, but it's a real the apartment pet, I feel, if you're not, I don't know, cat allergy or something.
Yes, my roommate and I in New York have been talking about the potential of a bearded dragon for quite some time now.
You should do it. They're fantastic.
Is yours cuddly?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's still a baby, so we don't actually know if it's male or female. So it's just they right now. But their favorite thing is to crawl up into my hair and fall asleep, and sometimes also eat my hair. But yeah, it's delightful. I didn't know that a lizard could cuddle, but I'm obsessed.
What's their name?
Their name is Kip.
Aww. Do they actually eat the hair, bite, and then the hair isn't there anymore?
They just chew on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's fine. Okay, yeah.
They're not digesting the hair.
They're not removing the hair from you. You still have the hair after they're done doing whatever they're doing with it.
Yes, but I do have to remove my hair from the mouth sometimes.
I could part with a bit of my hair in favor of a cuddly lizard.
Yeah.
After the contract.
I mean, if they want it, they should have it.
I'm going to direct all of my questions about this at you from now on. When I'm back in New York, the ball might be rolling on this.
Oh, I spend like all of my time just like looking things up about bearded dragons and like watching videos of bearded dragons now. It's like, it's bad. It's bad.
This is really exciting. Okay, I can't wait to see a picture. We will post a picture when this episode comes out, as we've been sharing photos of people's pets.
Fantastic.
Now that we know Mal, now that we know some fun facts about Mal, we're going to thank our patrons before we dive in. So, new patrons, we have to thank Jenny, Chaotic Neutral, and Mihika. And thank you to our sustaining patrons, Izzy, James, Cameron, Justin, and Dayton. I believe our upcoming Patreon episode for the month of November/December is going to be a conversation about Wicked, the movie. Join our Patreon for that content, as well as all kinds of other episodes. And so you can join our Discord, where we talk about the episodes on the main podcast every single week after they drop. It's a very special and fun place. You should join our Patreon, patreon.com/seaweedbrain.
I don't know how much to hype up this specific episode, but it's going to be something serious. This Wicked discussion, obviously, you all know Erica's qualifications.
It has to be behind a paywall, so I don't get fired.
It's going to be behind a paywall. We would like everyone's, discretion and grace to have
I
a
will be asking
real
for
ass
discretion.
conversation that everyone also should be very excited about and join Patreon to experience.
Yes, I apologize for putting content behind a paywall, but in this specific instance, it is mandatory. Okay, Carter, where did we last leave off?
Well, we last left off at Phaedra and Daedra's store in the over fancy back potions laboratory in the middle of a fight. It seems like we've mostly taken the upper hand, but Phaedra, oh gosh, is it Phaedra or Daedra at this point? I believe it's Phaedra.
I unfortunately don't care.
It's one of them.
Wow, you
heard it here.
You really put a pin in that one. I believe it's Phaedra, actually. Anyway, you're right. It doesn't matter. One of them, monster breaths, are trio, but does so in a fascinating, bold, innovative, daring, never before seen way, which is a sort of diagonal swipe across all three of them. And as chapter 25, There Ain't No Cure for the Beast Breath Blues begins, we are experiencing that breath and the ensuing effects, which are that everyone is having roughly a third of their body transformed into some sort of animal.
There is a really excellent photo in our Google Doc outline of SZA when she was a bug on Hot Ones, saying, "I'm just tired of being not a bug."
You gotta do her inflection with it.
You do it,
we're
Carter.
like, obviously she has no eyes because that's part of the bug costume. Like, you can't see her individual irises, pupils moving. And she goes, "I'm just so tired of being not a bug." Where it ends almost as a question.
Thank you for that.
That's Grover's sentiment about being really excited about being a human. Is there a method to the transformations? It seems like this is giving, I guess the theme is probably sets of three where the third one is the random one, like the door knockers, where Annabeth is turned into an owl at the top. That one obviously, sure, checks out, makes sense. Correct. Percy, middle section, octopus. Sure, checks out, makes sense. Great comedic bits that we're going to get out of this. I guess it could have also been like a horse, almost any maritime animal, but...
Oh no, it couldn't have been a horse, because we've absolutely ditched Poseidon, father of horses, remember?
Right.
No
Brandon.
love to father of horses.
But then Grover is a human. So it's not a representative animal thing, because Percy isn't like more attached to octopi than anything else. And it's not like a godly parent thing. It's like Grover isn't like a child of humans or something.
Well, but
and
like,
he really
what would
hates
you
it.
turn his lower half into if not kind of the opposite of an animal, I guess, a person?
I think that's fair. I think the gag is completed.
I think it's animal, not animal.
Except, as he emphasizes, they are the worst monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really upset. He is borderline, like, he is so useless in the set of chapters because he's so upset about having human legs.
Well, and
This
I
is
will
not-
say, I saw a fan art, and I wish I could remember who drew it, but I saw someone had like drawn this, and I will say that the most unsettling one was Grover, like just standing there as a guy.
Yes, shall we all quote Grover's most iconic line in this chapter together? Quote, Don't
call me a
man.
Oh, I was like, what are we quoting?
It's "don't call me man," right? Not.
Oh yeah, there's no article. Don't call me man.
Don't call me man.
Grover, honey. Yes. We see you. We see you, and we support you. And it's tough. Hans Christian Andersen found dead in a ditch, I guess. Grover is now gagging for toes.
For how difficult of a time Grover has been having throughout this book, this particular set of chapters, I was like, oh, we're being really rough on him. Like, he's particularly useless and particularly panicking and not being helpful.
Okay, this is skipping ahead a little bit. When Grover isn't there to translate for the big Gale moment, I was actually confused, upset. I mean,
isn't there to translate.
He isn't there to translate. So Percy is just speaking to Gale. Gale presumably can understand, but then Percy's just convincing himself about what these chitters mean. Percy is effectively
make some assumptions that are not
Gale
correct.
Is actually saying yes. Weird assumptions.
And then before there is any opportunity for argument, when there's only 3 antidotes but 4 people, immediately rushes in and takes one of the antidotes.
Way rubbed me the wrong way. Grover, I get Grover's having a really hard time. God knows I wouldn't want to be trapped being human either, but girl. Time and place, decorum and propriety, deliberative decision making as a collective,
But we've been watching Grover spiral into just absolute panic mode, but not the good kind of panic. Lowercase p panic mode throughout this book. Remember a few chapters ago when he was walking around and they were fighting all of the Greek ghosts, and he was like, I can't stop breaking things. That has led us directly to here. This is, I think, the lowest moment.
It's not the best. I feel like in general, when we're doing animal power things, it should be his time to shine. He should be able to talk to Annabeth Owl, but he isn't even that's also not something he can do. We find out because she's not she wasn't trained in proper owl communication. I
mean, he was doing so well. He really had his moment to shine in the improv scene that we just did.
He did. That's true. He was a appropriate scene partner.
Yeah, and we thought him and Percy were they were having kind of a heart to heart, and they were spending some time together, and Grover was slaying the improv, and then all of a sudden he gets human male legs and he's back at rock bottom.
Just loses it.
Yeah. It's pretty funny though. We get some good bits in here. Percy and Annabeth do a fun little who's on first moment because she's an owl and she can only say who. I did crack up.
The idea of Annabeth's head spinning 360 degrees around to judge all of them is great.
And the way it's who, what? Both excellent questions. That gets me every time.
Also, Owlabeth. I love Owlabeth. I've seen a couple fan arts, but I want to see more.
Yes.
We were ultra prepared for this at Seaweed Brain Podcast. Those of you who have been following us through the Red Pyramid have know that we just in that book got up to the part where they're having their bird journeys. On top of the fact that Egyptian mythology famously is full of people with bird heads and human bodies, we did our homework. We were locked and loaded.
Yeah, had the potions failed, or had the antidote failed, this would have been a great opportunity for a little Kane sibling phone a friend.
Crossover.
How do you unturn from being a bird? Yeah.
Sadie could be like, Annabeth, don't worry about it. I too have had existential crises while being trapped as a bird. We're going to get you out of this. We're going to get you out of this.
You have to, you got to do your Charlie XCX Sadie Kane accent for that. Ooh, yeah, okay. Not a ton happens in this chapter. That almost covers it. We transform, we knock out the twin sisters. Everybody gets dragged outside as the building's falling apart. And that's basically everything.
There's another image in our outline. Is this from BoJack Horseman, Carter?
It is from BoJack Horseman. Oh, yes. This was actually my favorite comedic moment in this section where you might remember from the previous set of chapters that Daedra, one of the twins, transformed into a bear, which I think this chapter vindicates, as I said at the time, maleficent hatred maybe, but that if you were a witch, you should not transform into an animal to win a fight. You should remain a witch who can do spells and use magic, and animal is strictly worse than a witch. But because of that, Percy chopped her hand off as a bear. So she is missing a hand in her nymph form, and there's a bear paw. So in order to handcuff her, Grover duct tapes the severed bear paw to her stump of a human wrist. Not human, nymph, whatever, wrist. If you have watched BoJack Horseman, you might recognize an image from season 4 of the show wherein Mr. Peanut Butter is running for governor of California against the incumbent. Woodchuck Kudchuck Berkowitz, voiced by the great Andre Bauer, in a truly, like, maybe his best comedic performance to date, and I'm including Brooklyn Nine-Nine, obviously. The gag of that character is that he has, in several different episodes, different animal hands at the ends of his hands. He's a woodchuck, obviously. And so there's a delightful image in our outline of him with lobster claws attached. And for the rest of his run for governor, he has gorilla feet as hands. And it is one of the reasons why the voters distrust him and try to vote him out of office in favor of a politician with no opinions bought out by oil drilling lobbies.
I really need to watch BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, that's the lesson I'm taking away too. I've never seen it.
Is that chapter 25? Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up?
I think that might be chapter 25.
There's a part that's very important to me personally where Percy, immediately is like rationalizing to himself, like, okay, here's how I can make it work with Owlabeth. Like, okay, I'm kind of nocturnal. Like, it's fine. Like, we can do this.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot that was in this chapter. We absolutely have to read that out loud. This is actually very important. You're right. This is the bottom of page 208. I knew owls were supposed to be Athena's animals, wise and knowing and all that, but I didn't like the idea of my girlfriend having to live the rest of her life with the head of a bird. I mean, yes, I was pretty nocturnal. We could try to make it work, but if she started swallowing rodents whole and coughing up owl pellets, no, there had to be a solution.
He's just so down bad. He's just willing to accept even her part owl.
Exactly. Like, his first thought is not, this is never going to work. It's, I'm going to make it work. I can make it work, right? If we can't turn her back, it's going to be fine.
Just the fictional relationship of all time.
Ah, answering our question already, I see.
Percibeth is, in fact, the greatest love story ever told.
Okay, everyone can stop listening now.
Great, that's it.
You can tune out for the rest of the episode.
Yeah. Okay, but I do have one more thing, and this is this a safe space for a hot take?
I think it is.
I think so.
So, like, one of the first things that Percy says, like, when she transforms is he's like, my wise girl has the head of an owl. And the increase in the use of wise girl as a nickname is so fascinating to me, because did you know that Percy uses wise girl twice in The Lightning Thief and then never again until Blood of Olympus? Like, that's 3 times in 10 books. And then he uses it in, like, every single cameo appearance since then, like Magnus Chase and all those. And then, like, 3 or 4 times each in, like, Chalice and this one. I feel a little like Regina George about it, like, stop trying to make Fed happen. Which I feel so bad about, because I'm like, she needs a cute nickname from him, but I'm also just like, how did we get here? Why did we choose this when it was, like, not really a thing?
Are you saying the hot take is that wise girl is, like, a cringy bad nickname?
Not even that it's cringy, just that, like, I'm like, Percy doesn't call her that. Percy has never called her that. This is, like, a brand new thing that he's doing now.
Got it, that we're trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
I think we're firm believers that it's a bad nickname on this podcast.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Some people are not nickname people in both directions. Like, some people are not good at giving nicknames. Some people should not have nicknames. You know, like, I think everyone has a few friends who you refer to exclusively by their whole names, you know, because some people bear that, and some people cannot be spoken about directly with their real name, because that sort of invocation would stir calamities or attract the wrong attentions. And I think we need to have room for both of those things. I think Annabeth is not someone who should have a nickname. I think that everyone should just refer to her as Annabeth.
Oh, hard agree. Like, I can't take it when people call her, like, Anna or Beth. Like, no, it's both. Annabeth, the whole thing.
Who?
I don't know. I feel like I've been seeing it more and more, like, online lately. People being like, oh, Anna did this. And I'm like, who is that? I don't know Anna.
Oh, fully do not try to make Anna happen.
I don't co-sign that. Yeah. Ooh.
It's not going to happen.
And chronologically, yes, this is an accurate read of what happened in the books, in the sense that age 13 through 16 for sure did not use this nickname ever.
Yeah, and, like, you can't even say it's something that he started doing, like, after they started dating, because he doesn't do it at all in Heroes of Olympus.
I think what's supposed to be happening is it's like a nostalgia core thing.
Yes.
On both levels, like, textually, I think that this is supposed to be a fun callback to a dumb nickname that I think everyone recognizes as bad, that he tried to use when they were 12, and that we're all using it all collectively in the universe of the books, knowing that it's bad. And of course, the extra textual thing is just that people really remember the first time that these are invoked, and so we're gonna keep doing it.
Or we could make a sort of roundabout explanation that in Percy's books that he is narrating, he does not type out the nickname as much because he doesn't think about how often he's using it, or he doesn't think he's using it, or maybe he types it out in his Google Doc outline of his books and thinks it sounds bad, and so he cuts it out of his books. But then when he makes appearances in other people's books, they're like, dang, Percy says wise girl a lot. And so then they include it.
Yeah, I could also see that.
But then that doesn't
explain
the
these two
uses in Chalice and Wrath.
I think Carter's right. Nostalgia core bringing us back to original traditions.
Yeah.
And they said it in the show, right?
They did. And I have a hot take about that too. I think both the show nicknames start out a little too, like, sentimental already. Like, they have to start a little bit mean. That's what makes them fun.
Yeah.
That's a good take.
I think that's right. Okay. Chapter 26. Okay, there might be a cure, but you're not going to like it. This whole chapter is just a conversation between Percy and Gale, the polecat, who cannot speak English. And it's great.
Yep.
This is the meat. This is where everything happens.
Thank God for octopus suckers. This is a big chapter for Percy. This is the chapter in which Percy realizes that women can have motivations for their actions beyond jealousy of other women.
Yeah, he was a little too Athena pill, dare we say, going into this.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. You know, he lives in fear of his mother-in-law, as he should.
And maybe because he spent so long, and maybe this is just because I'm so in like Battle of the Labyrinth mode, but he spent so long like not aware of the fact that Annabeth was jealous, that now he's like aware that like women can be jealous.
I love that. He learned one lesson and he was like, I know this now. I know this to be true. I have to apply it to all circumstances.
Oh my. Yeah. Well,
oh my God. Excuse me? This outline? The outline? This is what happens when Carter writes the outlines before I write the outline. Quote, you heard of dark Percy? It's time for woke Percy.
Did I lie?
Where's the lie though? Like
He's always been woke Percy. Except for Titan's Curse.
I think that this is woke Percy in a specifically, like, in both senses. In the sense that a person on Twitter, parentheses positive, would use it, and in the sense that a person on Twitter, parentheses demon from hell, would mean it. Like, I think they're both true in this context, where he spends this whole chapter sort of like trying to rewrite his words and intentions, because on some level he is still trying to, you know, not get killed and convince Gale that there is interest convergence and that Gale should do what's best for Gale, but also that what's best for Gale happens to be what's best for Percy. But the actual writing of it has a lot of Percy being like, oh, I was about to say you're going to come home. I want you to come home. And then I was like, no. Gale gets to have wants and desires. I have to hold space for Gale and Gale's opinions. And like literally stop myself mid-sentence at several points.
Mm-hmm. It is really interesting watching him navigate this in real time. What I have to ask, what did we all think of, you know how when we got Hecuba's backstory through these visions that were happening as they were fighting the ghostly warriors in Astoria, and now we're getting Gale's story through Percy's tentacles?
Octopus magic. That thing that we all know of where when an octopus tentacle touches something, its emotions and memories transfuse through the suckers.
New York's hottest club
right.
is a potion shop in Nolita. This place has everything. Beast breath, octopus magic.
It's that thing of when an octopus touches you, and then all its memories are your memories. We're trying to do a Stefan impersonation, but you can't see our hands.
Yeah, you can't see our hands. It's actually very unwoke of us to reference Stefan on this podcast, so maybe let's move along.
We're old. We get to have some old people things.
I felt a little unwoke here because, like, when Percy was like, oh, Hecate turned you into this polecat because she was jealous, I was like, yeah, that's what I was assuming as well. And then when it was not that, I was like, oh, yikes, maybe I have some unlearning to do.
Fair. Also, though, Hecate is not really, as we have seen her thus far in this book, she's not really, like, a down-to-earth girl's girl.
True.
She's not a down-to-earth girl's girl. I do feel like also, okay, there's no plot stuff really happening in this chapter. Percy and Gale make the potion. That's all there's plot-wise. So I guess for the rest of it, we're just gonna have a freewheeling chat. Percy delivers this sort of like big paragraph thesis saying this is what it meant and this is what Hecate was feeling when she transformed Gale into a polecat. I would say that I give that assessment roughly 60% accuracy. That I think it's probably like mostly right, but that there's also a lot of other things going on. And also that, like, in addition to not being a girl's girl, Hecate is probably one of the most actually inscrutable deities and characters that we identify with. She literally has like the three heads. Like she has multiple composite forms of herself that are like part of a single being. Like she does the three heads thing, not in the sense that she does different things at different times, but that she is this like juxtaposition of differences, different ideas, different paths. And I think that Percy's, I feel like Percy's read, again, it's mostly right, but it's a little tidy. And I do think there's probably room for everything. There's room for jealousy. Like Percy's take also, it's not just that Hecate is feeling empathetic and relates to Gale's experience. He also thinks in his head that like Gale actually would have been, like, Percy assumes a counterfactual. He says Gale would have been excellent enough to do it fine by herself. And Hecate didn't have enough confidence to support that, to allow that, to try to just let it happen. And that also I wonder about. I don't think I'm fully co-signing that either in Percy's assessment. But I'm curious of how everyone else landed.
In his final assessment of the situation?
In this paragraph on, I don't have the physical book with me. The paragraph beginning, I'd been wrong about Hecate. Yeah, the final wrap up. She'd pitied Gale, admired her, yes, even feared her, but she could not imagine a mere human succeeding when she, a goddess, had failed. So Gale had to cease being human.
This is a very interesting paragraph to me that I also want to talk about, because he starts the chapter being like, Hecate was jealous of Gale's powers. And then he sees Gale's story, and her intestines felt like they were filled with broken glass. The condition had been getting worse. She brought a girl back to life with her potions, and how did the city reward her with fear, hatred, torches, violence? They kicked her and spat on her. All of this, Gale stops at the top of the cliff, and then she sees Hecate. Hecate says, I warned you, they will never accept a woman of your power. This is the final crossroads. You could give up your magical arts and live. Never, Gale insisted. You are my goddess. Why do you not protect me? Hecate looked pained. I cannot protect you from the way they see you. I cannot protect you from your own talent. They fear you. They will never allow you to rise. The gods or men, Gale snarled. Hecate didn't reply. She didn't need to. Gale knew the answer was both. You could die, Hecate said, and the pain would stop. No, Gale snapped. I won't give them that satisfaction. Hecate nodded. The only other choice is the hardest, to live in eternal suffering. You would have your immortality, but not as a human or a god. That they would never allow. Your existence must be a curse, not a blessing. It is the only way a witch of your talent could survive. Then do it. So be it. And Hecate transforms her. And then from that, Percy says, I'd been wrong about Hecate. She hadn't turned Gale into a polecat out of jealousy. The reason was worse. She'd empathized. She'd lacked faith that Gale could survive on her magical talents alone. Hecate, of all people, knew how the world saw witches. She pitied Gale, admired her, and yes, maybe even feared her a little. But she could not imagine a mere human succeeding when she, a goddess, had failed. So Gale had to cease being human. There's a lot to talk about in that section, but I felt like the weirdest part of that final paragraph was the second to last sentence. Based on that dialogue, I do not feel that Hecate was upset about imagining a human succeeding where she had failed.
I don't know if Percy's framing it as upset either, because it seems like he's fully thrown out the jealousy explanation, and that he thinks that Hecate is simply. It seems like his charge is that she's narrow-minded.
There's an idea that she is intervening in this moment.
And Percy, like, I think he's implying a counterfactual in which Gale would have been fine. That, like, she's doing an intervention that wasn't necessary. Right. And that the only reason why she did it is because Hecate did not have the, I don't know, I guess open-mindedness to believe that Gale could do something that she had not been able to do.
That's interesting.
It is an interesting take. I think it's appropriate that it's there. It is also one that I think I am personally not inclined to agree with. And I think it's also weirdly erasing Gale's agency in this scene, where it seems like the two of them, obviously Hecate has more power, but it seems like they are strategizing together about what the best life is that Gale can hope for among her options. Like, she could die, she could give up magic, they're discussing all these different paths for her, and Hecate's just trying to give what it seems like is an honest assessment, and it seems like an assessment that Gale doesn't really contest about what each of these choices would actually imply for her. Like when Hecate says, like, if you keep going like this, they're going to hate you forever. Gale seems to agree. And it really seems like that is borne out in the evidence of the way that Gale has had to live.
That's how I felt. I was under the impression when it says on 216, now she had reached the end of her strength, that she was like on death's door in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way.
I felt that she was either going to perish right here at the top of this cliff at the metaphorical and literal crossroads, or allow Hecate to transform her.
Mm-hmm.
Like that there was no option to continue to try to live in the world of men, that it was only I perish at the hands of men in this moment, or Hecate transforms me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the part about succeeding where Hecate had failed, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, is it Percy's trying to say that, like, Hecate did this because she can't see, like, them embracing Gale any more than they, like, embrace her? But, like, if this really is, like, a crossroads, if she is on death's door, then I don't know, that part just feels out of place to me, at least.
Yeah, I could imagine a universe in which this assessment is right. That there are situations like this. Have either of you seen Mrs. America on FX/Hulu? The like prestige miniseries about feminism in the 1970s, starring Kate Blanchett as Phyllis Schlafly in her most terrifying performance ever committed to screen.
I did watch it. It gave me nightmares.
Kate Blanchett as Phyllis Schlafly is genuinely, that is the most horrifying thing that you will ever witness on screen. But
parenthesis, positive acting.
Positive. She does such a good job. But like, I think there's so many resonances of that here that I was thinking about, in the sense that you can imagine us being presented with a different story leading up to this point, where it is true that Gale is doing things in the world of men that Hecate can't really understand and is kind of jealous of and kind of confused by, and is being like overconfident that she understands how people are going to react to Gale forever. But it really seems like Gale also does not have any, like, she hasn't cracked it. People don't like her. She has not won over the hearts of her compatriots, and it seems like she's unable to, and that she's really stuck in that classical double bind where she's simultaneously like powerful in a way that almost no one can comprehend or understand, but also unable to change her situation. Like powerful enough to be like effective, but not powerful enough to do anything about it, to like have a good life.
Yes.
Which is also what Mrs. America is all about. Like every single one of these women sees all the other women as someone who's like so confusingly powerful, but also like all of them are having a really bad time and none of them are winning because you like, you can have everything. You can make all the correct moves and still be locked. And that's kind of what they're describing.
This show is about ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment, for context also.
It was about the attempt to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. And yeah, I really liked it. There's Uzo Aduba as Shirley Chisholm. Amazing performance. There's, isn't it Margot Martindale as Bella Abzug? Mm-hmm. I loved that performance too.
I feel like I'm just writing down like recommendations. Okay, BoJack Horseman. Okay.
Definitely. I always try to include the recommendations in the show notes at the end of every episode, but those are definitely the two big ones for this week. BoJack Horseman and Mrs. America on Hulu. I am also going to go so far as to say, to revisit woke Percy, this whole she could not imagine her succeeding is really Percy being like, girls can do anything, when Percy should be understanding that circumstances
like,
often
girls are
present
limited
choiceless
by
choices.
Yeah.
I'm limited. Just look at me.
Yeah.
I'm limited. That is what Hecate and Gale are saying to one another. I'm limited. And Percy is like, no, defy gravity, queen. And they're like, you don't get it. I'm at the end of my strength. Society can only take so much.
Okay, this is not a reference to Wicked or Mrs. America or anything. Do we not? I feel like we know these people in real life who like are very much not just you can do it, girl. Girls can do anything, but also the tie-in with that, which is the guy who doesn't know particular things about a pursuit or discipline, talking to you and being like, I can tell you're the best. You're really good at this. Is this not a general enough phenomenon? I don't think I'm being specific enough.
A man has never said that to me.
A man has never gone.
No one has ever said that to me either.
I wouldn't know.
I feel like I have had experience with a lot of people who are like kind of bro-y And their way of synthesizing that into a way to talk to you is being like, yeah, I mean, when I heard you talk about this thing, I could tell that you were really good at it. And being like, no, you could not. You do not have the requisite knowledge to assess that.
Yeah.
That's Percy also.
Okay.
He's saying so much here about how Gale is like the best witch to ever exist. And we know that Percy doesn't know witches like that. He's met 2-3 witches, perhaps, in his day, and they've been good. You know, Cersei, that's nothing to scoff at. Real witch there, but does he have the tools to assess the relative technical competency of Gale against Cersei? No, he does not. He's saying a lot of stuff here.
I feel like perhaps Percy is measuring all women to the like way that he sees Annabeth. He's like, Annabeth can do anything, so like women are powerful, women can do anything. And it's just like, okay, you don't have all the information about all women. Like, you know Annabeth's strengths, but like it's not enough to make a general statement about any woman.
I love the way in which we've ripped Percy to shreds in this chapter. I really find it to be so fascinating how he's going on this journey.
I don't think we are ripping him to shreds.
You don't?
We're just discussing.
I think that we're questioning his judgment.
I think that we're watching him in real time go through this process of trying to understand things that he has not previously understood, and he doesn't get from A to Z immediately.
Nor should he, yeah.
He's maybe at like M right now.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Most of the actions he's taking here are correct, even if he doesn't maybe understand 100% everything that's going on.
And that's okay. You know, when he's on M, he can kind of figure it out as he goes. Like, that's something he's kind of good at.
You're learning.
So,
you're doing the right thing. Maybe your mental model isn't detailed. God bless.
We were talking last week about how Annabeth, it's not time for her to self-actualize yet. Like, there's so much life left for both of them. There's so many books left to be written.
They're 17. Yes. Like, they're children.
It's true. They haven't even started undergrad yet. This is all to get them into college. Messy time for many people, and they should not be exceptions.
Mm-hmm. I also, before we get out of this whole gorgeous couple pages, I really loved the speech that Hecate gave Gale, saying your existence must be a curse, not a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a perfect sentence to summarize like all of the stories of women of antiquity, be it Medusa or Calypso, Circe to an extent, which is once again why I wish I could hear Annabeth, or better yet, Hazel, battle with that sentiment a little bit more.
But it's
Hazel,
not
whose
the
existence
witches
is
or the monsters. Like, it really is true for all the women of antiquity. Like, Helen of Troy, as much as anyone, had the same thing apply to her, where her whole life was to exist as a curse.
Well, and maybe it's just the London Hadestown recording that just came out, but I was thinking Persephone and the whole...
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Depending on how it's told, you know, sometimes it's more consensual than other times, but like being kidnapped by Hades and like forced to be his wife, like that's... And that happened all the time. Like all these women were forced to be, not to quote Chapel Roan, but nothing more than his wife. And... that's their curse.
Maybe next week or at the end of this book, I think we should go back to Hazel's scene with Hecate and the mists and all of that and look back at it in comparison to what we now know about Hecate. Because again, this line, I just immediately thought of Hazel's relationship with her mother.
Yes.
And what kind of relationship she would have with Hecate, being another woman who understands this idea of what it means to live a cursed existence, giving her a way forward. Also, Hazel has to go to the magic school. She must get out of Camp Jupiter
absolutely.
Immediately out of the military and into magic school.
Yeah, many people should maybe be looking into magic school, and we'll name them, and we'll continue to name them later, maybe as we
at the end of the book. At the end of when we finish Wrath, let's create a comprehensive list of
people who need to go to magic school. Yeah,
magic school.
Not to put Eudora out of a job, but we have our own admissions decisions to make.
We're on the recruiting team. I guess this is all a spoiler for the end of the book. I hope everyone's finished it by now. Carter?
I did. I have finished the book. I finished it late, but it is done. Yes.
Good. I had one other thing I wanted to say about the titular role, because last week we had the actual titular role with Annabeth threatening this like vague, you don't
fate
threatening the wrath of the triple goddess. But in this chapter, we actually see the real titular wrath of the triple goddess, because we've had this idea and perception about Hecate this whole time that she is like acting out of jealousy and whatnot, and that her wrath is what turns Hecuba and Gale into her animal familiars, when we have seen now both times that it has actually been out of empathy and understanding and sisterhood that these transformations have taken place. So the actual wrath is just us finding a way amidst difficulties to like transform ourselves in order to move forward together. And if we're going to take that back to Percy, Annabeth, and Grover in this book, they're going through a very difficult time in their friendship as they're about to separate and part ways. And they're trying to find a way to transform their dynamic together in order to move forward.
I think it's Gale and Hecuba. I think they are the wrath of the triple goddess between the two of them. Like they are both these kind of like immortal capsules of anger that they are, it seems like now, going to begin a process of disentangling, moving away from. It seems like there hasn't been a lot of therapy in Hecate's care over the past 3,000, 4,000 years.
Yeah. I like the idea that Gale and Hecuba are the wrath itself as these like angry little monsters, angry little creatures, but also that you were thinking this scary magical woman was going to be vengeful and evil this whole time. And in reality, she was just helping a girl out.
She was just doing her best. Yeah.
And that once again, we have labeled this woman
she
of
was
antiquity.
Just trying to be a girl's girl before we really knew what it meant to be a girl's girl. And now we have to like fix the harm that was accidentally kind of caused.
She was trying to help out her girls who were also being mislabeled as monstrous, and then in the process of that was still mislabeled as being monstrous and wrathful and vengeful.
Yes.
Because our existence is a curse.
Important chapter. Also because Percy spends a lot of the chapter trying to use the octopus tentacles to make potions and use a sword.
Yes, 10 out of 10.
When it is cinematically depicted, this chapter is going to be delicious as Rome is like chemically being destroyed and crumbling around them, and Percy is octopus tentacling things together as he's being yelled at by a polecat where it's not being translated. Oh,
I can see the montage in my head.
All right. I think maybe we have to take a quick break and then do the final chapter. Yes. Chapter 27.
We eat toothpaste. So they take the potions in this chapter, the antidotes. As we mentioned earlier, Grover gets right in there.
He waits for no one. He grabs the biggest one. Okay, this is also... The potion magically appears to clump and portion itself out into 3 lumps so that we create a sense of artificial scarcity. Part of the impetus in the last chapter was Percy and Gale talking about Gale potentially taking this potion and becoming human. That's out of the way. We've imposed artificial scarcity both because this potion has clumped itself into 3, and also because Gale tells Grover, who is now available to translate, that the ingredients were sort of one of a kind. That we're not going to be able to remake this potion. Did anyone else find it strange that we didn't talk about potentially all taking equal shares of what small amount of potion is left and being a little bit animal as a group bonding exercise and or compromise?
Oh, interesting. I didn't even consider that. I just was kind of like, oh, there's only 2 left. Sure. But also, like, as you were saying that, I was like, yeah, why didn't we consider cutting it up? Or
I feel like there were a lot of alternatives that we didn't look further into. I also was a little perplexed by this idea that these 2 Nereids have access to ingredients that Hecate, the goddess of magic, could not possibly have access to, and that Gale will not be able to get anywhere else. I found that a little bit suspect.
Yeah, very, very true. See, I just took it at face value because I was like, yep, that seems right. Like we gotta make hard choices. But no, you're right.
And we do have to make hard choices. It is the wrath of triple goddess. We have to have 3 of something. We need to choose between our preset options. And we do. Grover takes one, Annabeth takes one, and then Percy and Gale sort of have this heart-to-heart where Percy offers Gale the last one, and Gale says, actually, I prefer to live as a curse. I'm going to be immortal and bitter and talented.
Period.
Forever.
She said, you will not take my craft away from me.
Yeah.
I have not achieved everything there is to achieve yet.
It really, I think, is the anti-Cersei, and I think this is the turn that we've noticed, I think, across witch media. I was thinking about Agatha all along again, and how there are several moments where they choose to abandon comfort in order to be witches, and not because being witches achieves anything for them, but just because they want to. Like, they want to do a craft and have commitment to it and be good at it. And I feel like that is like Gale at this point, like her witchcraft isn't doing anything for her anymore. She just wants to be good at a thing. She'd rather be the best or nothing.
Talent isn't genius, and no amount of energy can make it so. I want to be great or nothing. And it won't be a commonplace dauber, so I don't intend to try anymore.
Yeah.
That's not what Gale said, though. Gale said, I will be great or nothing, so I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah.
I also did just finally look up what polecats look like. And
they are
honestly,
pretty. Gale also says she wants to look pretty, and she does.
Yeah, like much better looking than a person, I think.
The listeners who were really paying attention during Chalice of the Gods might remember that whole book was about growing old and how we should all embrace mortality and wrestling with old age and picturing the park bench where we're all going to be sitting there together. And like, it's not exactly the resolution of this book. The resolution of this book is sisterhood, and it is craft, and it is,
yes,
like moving past our preconceived notions of things and situations and people.
Yes, because growing old on the park bench with your friends in the garden is not for witches. Growing old on the park bench with your friends in the garden is for, like, heroes, you know?
Yeah.
That's for people who have fought the fight and are done and are ready to retire.
I think retirement is the difference here, where, like, there are some people who are trying to do things in life that you will only be able to do for a short period of time, and there are other people who are trying to do things that you could keep doing. And Gale is...
Witches don't retire.
Yeah.
Period.
Yes, exactly.
Maiden Mother Crone. You keep doing that forever.
It seems like it might be at odds, but only in appearances. I think that this is actually not incongruous with the park bench.
I also think they're completely different lessons for different people.
Yes.
Yeah, always good to see a different perspective and, like, different choices that people can make, because you can either have the life on the park bench, or you can, like, continue to do, like, this witchy stuff for forever, and, like, both options are good, and it's whatever makes you happy and is, like, what you want to do.
Yeah. Have you read Cersei, Mal?
I have not.
Okay, because I feel like we reference... I'm trying to be better about explaining certain things. When we say anti-Cersei, the idea of Cersei by Madeline Miller being that the ultimate goal is to value your mortality and accept the finite nature of things as what gives them value. That's what we mean when we say choosing immortality is anti-Cersei. And I think that I've decided, Carter, if you're cool with it, in this moment, we can talk about it, doing 4 episodes on Cersei by Madeline Miller next year before Sea of Monsters, the season, comes out.
I think that's appropriate.
Oh, I saw that tweet. I was like, oh, I've had Cersei in my, like, holds on Libby for literal months, and I just keep pushing, like, no, right now, I can't do it right now. So someday.
That's really real.
I asked the patrons, I was like, should we do 1 episode? Should we do 4? And I feel like 4 is the consensus. We can do, like, 1 clean month talking about the book in sections.
Okay, yeah. I think that's right.
And then if anyone has recommendations for books about Scylla and Charybdis, we can also do that.
That's the next stage of the feminist retellings. Is like, stage 1 is like, you pick the famous witch. Stage 2, you got to pick the monster spurned by the famous witch.
Honestly, I would read it.
Well, everyone transforms. And Percy says, once I was done throwing up, I had my old arms back again. The first thing I did was pull Grover and Annabeth into a big group hug.
I also have an important thing to point out here, and it is the fact that when she transforms, Annabeth coughs up an owl pellet. And just scientifically, I have questions because, number one, if just her head transformed, you would assume that she still has the regular human, like, digestive system. Like, she wouldn't have a gizzard to make an owl pellet. And also, the point of an owl pellet is to, like, regurgitate the things that an owl can't digest, like the bones, the fur. Annabeth would not have eaten bones and fur. So, like, what is this owl pellet other than just a joke? And it's funny, but
Well, mind you, chapter 26, she was outside. We were watching her in chapter 26. She was outside on the streets of New York.
no,
You don't know that she didn't eat.
Annabeth ate a subway rat.
Annabeth was doing her part. She was lining up with that Turkish man, Eric Adams, and trying to save the city.
The rats don't run this city. Owlabeth does.
Owlabeth does.
Owlabeth does, actually. I want everyone to know that I didn't know what an owl pellet was when I read this, and I had to Google it. If you too had to Google what an owl pellet is...
Did you not read The Guardians of Ga'Hoole, Erica?
I didn't.
Oh, wow. See, Warrior Cats, boo, boo, boo. We don't believe in that. Guardians of Ga'Hoole, whoa, that's a whole other story. It is basically the same thing, except they have many lines about feeling something in your gizzard, because owls don't have
that.
a gut in traditional sense.
I have acid reflux, so I really be feeling things in my gizzard lately. Feeling it right now, actually.
No, it's the other direction. A gizzard is like, it's like a post stomach.
Oh, I need one of those then.
It's like a complement to your large intestine, where like it like as Mal was describing, it like packages up all the things that you can't digest for you to regurgitate as an owl in the form of a pellet.
See, I knew when I was reading this chapter that I didn't know what an owl pellet was, but you absolutely did, Carter. I knew that that's an animal fact Carter will know.
You mean you didn't have to like dig in an owl pellet in middle school science?
No, but also I went to the same middle school as Carter. There's just certain things Carter knows that I don't.
I was a zoo volunteer, and I ran the exercise where we had the elementary school age children slowly pulling apart their owl pellets to see if we could reconstruct a rat skeleton between everybody in the class.
I knew this was either a Honolulu Zoo factoid that you knew or a Costco-sized encyclopedia book factoid that you would have known. There is a question for the culture here. Do you want to just briefly discuss that, or do you want to save it for next week?
I think this is the right time. The question is, should Gale and Hecuba have talked? I think yes. I would like to have seen the Gale and Cersei thing as being told from Gale's perspective, wherein she has a voice and not polecat screeches that are not even translated into English. I don't know. I think that the Cersei passage is really rich, but I would have liked, say, like 2 or 3 chapters where Gale does transform into a human, and then like Shrek 2 or Shrek 3, I don't remember which one it is like, no, I'm going to be a polecat. I am the curse, mortality, all of that. Shrek 2. Okay, thank you. But I just feel like I like the Cersei scene would, like, as is, would have been perfect if surrounded by like a little bit more of Gale, like doing things, saying words. But I'd be curious to hear other people's takes on this.
Yeah, I would appreciate getting to hear from Gale, but I do appreciate that it's not like we don't just take like Percy's kind of assumptions at face value. Like, we do get the octopus magic memories, so it is almost like Gale's getting to tell her story like through what happened. But like, yeah, I think getting her take on what happened and like reflecting on even through Grover like would have been meaningful.
Well, you've already answered the big question, so that might about do it.
I did, because I'm just really ahead of the game.
An overachiever.
A+.
Yes. Do you want to plug your podcast, socials, all of the things that are necessary for people to get more of your thoughts and your content?
So my podcast is Demigod Debut. It can be found probably wherever it is you're listening to this, at Demigod Debut Pod, pretty much everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Threads, the website formerly known as Twitter. If you want more thoughts on owl pellets and other related nonsense, yeah, come find me.
Yay! Thank you, Mal. Thank you for joining us. Everyone, go check out Mal's podcast. We'll have it linked in our show notes. And we will see you all next time with a returning guest to continue on and help us get close to wrapping up the Wrath of the Triple Goddess.
Bye, all.